You're tuned into Monday Night Carlo, the sports pop culture podcast, available on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher Radio. So why not hit that subscribe button now? Monday Night Carlo, where pop culture fun lives.
So as far as the finance for the movie goes, how much did you guys look at to spend overall, and how much over do you think that's ultimately going to be?
We raised $46,000 on Kickstarter the first time. Kickstarter takes some fees, so out the window that went, and then we raised a little bit more offline just to kind of keep us going in the interim. Right now we have a $50,000 goal.
Yes.
I think we need a little bit more than that, but, with Kickstarter, there's always this risk. I mean, if you don't hit your goal, you get nothing.
Right.
As I'm talking to you and watching the numbers go, we right now we have 777 backers and 41,000 and change dollars. We're not even 3 days in yet. So knock on wood, I think it's safe to say that the 50,000 we're going to get there. It's not going to be a problem.
As it's your baby, Jason, do you worry about the goal as such, or do you kind of not think about it? Do you just go straight ahead? Do you just career ahead as you go along,
I think the film's gotten to a point where even if we didn't make this Kickstarter goal, the money that we need to do this, we were going to get it anyway.
Right, okay.
It just would have, it would have been through more traditional routes of funding, different equity deals or whatever, or maybe a studio deal. But this film, we funded it on Kickstarter 2 years ago, and we really wanted to do the same thing again, where we bring it to the fans, we put it in front of the public eye, let people get involved in it, and then we retain control. I think what's great, first of all, I'm a control freak in general, and I love doing things. If I could do everything on my own, I would.
I hear that.
But I think what's great about doing it this way is, if we do some type of equity deal or a studio deal, now somebody else has their hands in the pot, and then it just becomes a question of what they're going to want with it and what their vision is, and by leaving this, a fan based documentary, we have the ability to make every decision that we want to make, and ultimately we'll make the decision who the editor is, and we already have an editor, by the way, who's working on the project. We have the ability to decide who's going to color it and who's going to do sound and how it should sound. And by doing it through Kickstarter, we maintain all those controls. To be very honest with you, I did not lose a wink of sleep at night thinking that this film wouldn't get funded. The second time. The first time I lost a lot of sleep. It's actually a very funny story. When the day that we, I tore my ACL playing baseball.
Ow. And
yes, it was quite painful. The day that we launched our first Kickstarter was the day after my surgery, and I planned it that way.
Right.
The reason was I knew I was going to be in bed for almost a month. So I said, what better time to focus on doing a Kickstarter than when you're in bed, And so it made a lot of sense to do it that way. My surgery ended up getting screwed up, and I had nerve problems, and I was hopped up on morphine and trying to manage a Kickstarter, so it ended up being a lot. But we had sort of hit a lull. If you go back to Kick Tracks and look at our first Kickstarter, you could sort of see, we had a lot of money up front, and then it kind of died down, and then we got more, and then the last weekend we raised $10,000, literally in the last 2 days. It was a learning experience. For those familiar with Kickstarter, there's a button that says, remind me about this project.
Right.
And what that does is it sends you a reminder 48 hours before the project closes. Now, I've backed, according to Kickstarter, I've backed 15 different projects on Kickstarter. I love it. I buy things on Kickstarter a lot. A lot of it's technology stuff. I love new gadgets and the crazy stuff they come up with. But sometimes you don't know, are other people going to back this? Maybe you don't have the money right now and you're going to have it later, or you don't know, do I have a couple extra dollars to spend on this? So you hit remind me. When that email goes out from Kickstarter 48 hours before, it brings a lot of people back to your page. And we didn't, we went from 30-something thousand to 46,000 in literally in that last 48 hours. Now, this campaign is a totally different thing.
Right.
First of all, I like to say that we sort of did the first Kickstarter with smoke and mirrors. We had filmed for one day. We had really lofty goals. We wanted to interview the cast. We wanted to interview the crew. We knew what we wanted to do, but we hadn't done it yet. The 600 and change Kickstarter backers that believed in us, I give them so much credit for just believing in this project that at the time was just, a day or two's worth of shooting. Yes. And Joe Walzer, who's one of the characters in our documentary, and in another Back to the Future documentary called Out of Time, which is also on Kickstarter right now, I was talking to him on the phone the other day, and he said to me about our documentary, he goes, when I first saw it, and I knew nothing about it, I knew it wasn't done. I knew, and we didn't try to claim it was done. I mean, we said this is something that we want to go ahead and go out and shoot. He said, but I saw the quality in it. I saw that it was shot well, and it was edited well, and the sound was great, and the light, and I knew that these were capable, people, that you guys had the ability to do it, and that's what's great, that people sort of believed in it. When we went back to Kickstarter now, we had a completely polished trailer. We're basically done with production. There are a couple more interviews that I'd like to do. I don't know if we're going to get to do them. If we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. But, I said, all right, if we got funded the first time, there's no way we're not going to get funded this time, because look what we're going with. And the other thing, which was very scary the first time around, we put this documentary out there in June of 2013. I wanted this to be something that celebrated the 30-year anniversary of Back to the Future, which, of course, as fans know, is this year in 2015.
Yes.
I said, what if I put this out there and somebody copies the idea? Somebody with more funds and more resources, and what if Universal looks at the idea and says, we're going to do it ourselves? So it was a catch-22, because if we didn't get the funding, I had no other way to fund this film. And if we put it out there with that much time, it was just a scary thing, like, oh man, is somebody going to copy this? And throughout the first year of production, that was something that, that kept me up at night. Is somebody else going to do this? And just as time shook on, we were able to say, oh well, all right, now we got this person and that person. Now the documentary is getting bigger, and you get to a point, and here we are in March, and it just seems like at this point, even if somebody wanted to do it, to cover this much legwork, I mean, it just, I'd like to think at this point it wouldn't be possible. I mean, we spent 2 years on this, and we're not done yet. So, that was one of those things that we were kind of able to avoid. It was a scary thing when you put yourself out there like that.
I have a two-pronged question for you, Jason. The first part being about Universal and how they felt when you kind of pitched your idea to them. And the other question I have for you is about Comic-Cons and conventions in general. Do you guys put the movie out in those?
So as far as Universal, Bob Gale was sort of our intermediary with Universal.
Right.
Licensing clips was obviously something that we had to have a conversation about, and he put us in touch with the right person there and the right person for music, and we filmed at Universal. The DeLorean time machine from Back to the Future Part 1 is there, and so we filmed there, and we worked out a great deal with them, and they were very helpful. And the second thing, we went to Courthouse Square, and we just filmed back there just so people can see, what it looks like now. So they've had no issue with us at all. And then as far as the second part of your question, we went to actually a Comic-Con to shoot.
Okay.
So you have a name?
And then, so that was very recently. We shot the Hollers there, Terry and Oliver Holler, at the Cleveland Comic-Con. And what we're actually going to be doing is a lot of promotion at Comic-Cons in terms of panels. So we're looking at WonderCon. There are a couple other ones that unfortunately I can't tell you yet. They're officially unofficial. So
okay.
Just C2E2 actually is official in Chicago. We're going to be doing a Sunday panel at C2E2. And it's great that the Comic-Cons have opened up to us. I mean, Back to the Future, the Cleveland, I think it was WizardCon that we were at. It was brand new. It was their first year having it. So
right.
It was somewhat of a smaller show. And the Hollers actually did a panel there. They talk about their journey traveling, all over the country collecting money for the Fox Foundation. And they had a very nice turnout at their panel. Just because of the nature of our film, we're not going to try to go to every single, panel that we, every single Comic-Con we could find. Certainly, I mean, we're in the process of editing this film, so we don't have the time to do it. So we're just trying to go to the bigger Comic-Cons, and we'd love to end up at San Diego. New York Comic-Con is within a month of the release of our film, and it's in our backyard. So
I don't know if you guys get any chance to do so, but I think the UK fans would love to see you guys at one of the cons over here.
Well, I mean, we'd love to, and talking about UK, and this was something I had in mind, so I'm glad you just jogged my memory. We had a chance to film in England for the documentary.
Oh, really?
Yes. So we were at Secret Cinema's production of Back to the Future.
Nice.
And it was amazing. That was one of those things too. That was probably the moment when we realized we were going to have a second Kickstarter.
Really?
I went to England. My producer came with me, but essentially as far as crew, I came by myself. And I hired some local crew out in England. I hired a movie operator because it was a great opportunity for these sort of beautiful sort of moving shots, moving through Hill Valley and seeing all the fans and the costumes. And I hired another B-roll shooter out there, and it cost me a fortune to go to England for 4 days. A fortune. And it was one of those things where 2 years ago, when we were sitting planning this documentary, never in a million years did I think, A, that we'd travel to England, or B, that somebody would come up with this spectacle where they would have 80,000 people over a 6-week period come to this show, dressed in 1950s period costumes, and put on this Back to the Future extravaganza. And as the director of this film, the first time that I saw it online, and Stephen Clark, who runs BackToTheFuture.com, he had posted something on Facebook, and I saw it, and I said, "Oh my God, we have to go! We have to film this."
How did you find the UK? Was it your first time coming over, Jason?
It was. It was my first time there. It was cool. It was. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It kind of had. You guys have the very similar to the subway system that we have here. That's kind of how everybody gets around. So I was like, all right, I could. For me. I ended up going alone, and traveling alone for me is not, it's like my worst dreaded nightmare. But I found out that cabs are very expensive and that you shouldn't take them.
Yes, even for us,
I took a cab from the airport to my hotel, and it cost £100. I was like, oh wow, okay, but I didn't have a choice because I had all the gear with me, so I couldn't exactly lug it on a train, but. It was great.
Did you get to talk to anybody about the film that you were making in the UK? How was the UK vibe towards your film?
They sort of knew what we were doing. We stayed a little bit under the radar because what we discussed with Secret Cinema is that we still wanted the experience for the people that were coming to Secret Cinema not to be altered because we were shooting a documentary.
Yes,
and we wouldn't want to do that either. We wanted it to be as natural as possible. The one thing that we did do, and I'm not sure how it'll play in the documentary. We thought that we should do it, so we shot it. I don't know if it's going to make the final cut, but I'll tell you. Before people went in, we interviewed them on the street. And that was the only interviewing that we were going to do. We were not going to interview people inside. As far as inside, we were just flies on the wall. But we interviewed people and asked them why they were coming to this. I mean, it was in East London, which, as far as I understood, is like the middle of nowhere for you guys.
Yes, yeah.
And people were coming out and dressing up, and the tickets were expensive. I think they were like £85 maybe, or £65. They were not cheap. And some people, it was their second and third time, and just hearing from people. And I have to say, as an American, we're self-centered and we're spoiled, and we think that the world, and by the way, as a New Yorker, it's even worse, because New Yorkers think that the entire world revolves around New York. The Earth doesn't rotate around the sun; it rotates around New York.
Right.
And that's sort of a general attitude. And I mean, I'm the exact same way. I grew up here. I've lived in New York essentially my whole life, so
right.
It's sort of all you know. And to go to a foreign country and to see how Back to the Future is loved and the different reasons. We interviewed Fabian Rigel, who's the director, and not to give away too much, but just the way that he described why Back to the Future was important to him, totally different than how I felt about it. To him, it was this nostalgia, this wanting to be in America and And like I said to you earlier, for me, it was just, oh, well, it's regular. The movie was plain and normal. It was like my next door, Marty McFly was like the kid that lived down my street, And that's what was really cool about being in England. And you talk about international reach. Doing these Kickstarters is amazing. Obviously here I am talking to you. You guys are in the UK. I'm in New York. I did an interview with a news outlet in South Korea the other day.
That's cool.
And the reporter was just telling me how huge the movie is there. And we've gotten requests to translate our film into basically every language that I could think of, known to man, Spanish and Italian and Portuguese, and to see the reach that this movie had. And it's funny because we have a very close relationship with Bob Gale now. We've been working with him for quite some time, and it's amazing what they did and what this movie accomplished and how much reach it has and how it resonates with people. And we're talking about this 30 years after the movie came out.
That's funny that you say about the guys in the UK kind of seeing it as Americana, because for me growing up in the UK, I'm a massive wrestling fan, and I have been since I was around kind of 6 years old. And that was kind of my first inroads to America. I love America just from watching wrestling, and I used to learn basically my geography would come from watching WWE, and where the events were held and where the arenas were, and so that Americana comes across so much in Back to the Future that just like you said about Marty McFly for you was the kid that lived down your street, but I think for us here in the UK, that was America to us,
Yeah, and that's one of the cool parts about Back to the Future. Like it's so real,
Yes. As far as the UK audience goes, I mean, you guys definitely have to do. I do the pop culture events myself. I'm going to Memorabilia in September. I'll be at Collectomania in June. So there's two for you guys to think about, because I would love to interview you guys in person. So if you come.
So what are the big ones? Are those the big shows in the UK?
Yeah, you've got Memorabilia, which is in Birmingham. That's the big one. And then you have Collectomania, which is in London, and that is in June. So you want to if you want to come to the UK, that's the ones you want to note down, because not only because I'm there, but because everybody will be there.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be so fun. We've seen that, obviously we follow every Facebook group under the sun, and just looking at the different, UK groups, I just see how massive it is there.
Definitely. I mean, like I say, if you guys are there, I would love to do a live interview with you guys, because I think it would be so much fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as far as the movie itself, the release date is when, Jason? And just tell us, for the guys in the UK that are kind of listening in to this interview, that are regular podcast listeners, what your movie essentially is about, and what can we expect from your movie?
So October 21st, 2015 is slated to be our official public release. We're going to do that in California at the We're Going Back event. You can check that out, we'regoingback.com. It's a crazy week-long event that they're going to have all these different great Back to the Future events. I've been talking to one of the guys that run it, and they're going to be doing some amazing stuff that is still under wraps. So
nice.
I mean, it's going to be crazy. And we're going to release our film as one of the events at their event. Then, just in terms of what you could see, like I said, this started, not only did it start as a fan documentary, but we really looked at a lot of stories that had to do with the DeLorean time machine, people who were buying them, people who were using it for good. And a lot of the early things that we filmed were about that. And as we started getting more cast and crew from the film, the vision expanded, and it just became this celebration of Back to the Future 30 years later. And kind of getting deep down and talking to actors and talking to the director and the writer and what was their vision and what was their goal, and what people are doing now with it and why it's important to them. And that's basically what you'll see in there. I mean, I'm as excited as the fans, because for me, like you said, once you get involved in the project, you're so tied to every word and every answer and every question. But I mean, we have hours of footage. So, let
me tell you, yeah. I'm very excited, Jason. Very excited.
Yeah, I mean the fun part is the behind the scenes stuff. The bonus features, because we're going to try to get as much of that out there as we can. Obviously, so much is going to get cut from the film that the stuff. It's going to be interesting to see sort of the editor's take on it too. That outside perspective of how he thinks the story should be molded, or what's the best stuff that we got that kind of makes this final 90-minute or so, cut.
So when you think back to your interviews, for you, who is your kind of holy grail, and who was the most fun to talk to?
I think Michael J. Fox is the
Yes.
holy grail when I'm speaking for everyone involved in the movie. Nothing's bigger than that. You can't do a big Back to the Future thing without Marty McFly. But I think for me personally, Robert Zemeckis was really big. I mean, he directed so many films that I loved growing up, and at the end of the day, he has the job that I want. He's the director, and I'm the director of this, and I could only, you could only hope to aspire to ever. I mean, forget his level; it's never going to happen. But as close as you can get to that, and then to be sitting 4 feet from the guy and just talking about a project that he worked on and his career and his life. I mean, that was really big, and it was something that we knew would be difficult to get, and we got it.
So for you personally, Jason, what is your kind of holy grail piece of memorabilia from this movie, and do you own any for yourself?
So I only am going to keep one thing. The license plate that's in our poster, the license plate that says Back in Time, I had that made for the shoot.
Right.
So we shot the car, and we and then we just had the license plate. So I got that license plate signed by Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox, and it's mine, and it's never going anywhere. To be honest, originally it was going to be a Kickstarter reward. That was its initial plan, and it's funny, we got some negative. I mean, listen, anytime you put something online, you're going to get some negative feedback. In our behind the scenes video with Michael J. Fox, it was widely publicized, and it had close to 50,000 views of just this. It was just a video of us shooting Michael J. Fox, really nothing. It wasn't supposed to be anything special.
Right.
And people are like, "Oh, they're having him sign things. They're going to put it on eBay. It's so disgusting." No. When we shot with Michael, we knew that we were going to do a Kickstarter, and that's what the stuff was for. And that's what that license plate was going to be for as well. But I remember after Mike, because we had done Chris a few months earlier, and after Chris signed it, I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And I have all the most of the Kickstarter awards. I have them in my studio.
Okay.
As they wait to get sent all over the world. And once Michael signed it, and I brought it back to my studio, and I put it sort of next to my desk, I was like, I can't possibly part with this. This is a one of one. It's
Yes.
First of all, it's the license plate that's in the poster. It's the one I had made for it. And when you look back and you want to remember it and the journey, because that's absolutely what this was. I mean, it was an incredible journey. I said, this can't go anywhere. So it's staying with me.
So to wrap this thing up, Jason, I just want to ask you about your Kickstarter awards, just to kind of tempt those listening maybe to click that Kickstarter button to kick your campaign to more dollars. So just tell us a little bit about the rewards that people can expect.
Yeah, so it ranges. I mean, obviously, the lowest reward is, I think with Kickstarter you could always donate $1. So any amount of money that you want, you can donate. Our rewards start at $5, which is a thank you. The most popular reward right now, just numerically, the two most popular are a download of the film in HD, which is $12, and the download with special features, which is $20. And if you could swing the extra $8, the special features are going to be amazing. So it's definitely worth it. And then the DVD.
I've gone for the Blu-ray.
Well, see, there you go. That's the high quality stuff, And so those are essentially the main, kind of meat and potato stuff. Then we got some really cool things. I kicked myself because if I would have known that we were going to do a second Kickstarter after the first one, I would have been getting many more things autographed and many more things made throughout the process. But, you're kind of scrambling making a film. Our T-shirt design was done by Andrew Heath. It's an original design with the remote, Doc Brown's Time Machine remote. I love it. So the T-shirt's really cool.
Nice.
The poster, obviously, Michael Duvall from Lens Pro To Go. It's an online rental company here in the United States. they were supplying us with gear, which was huge for us throughout production because it supplemented a lot of cost. We were able to use very high quality lenses when we were shooting, and that was thanks to them. And Michael is also a photographer. So the car in the poster is Bill Shea's car. This is his replica time machine.
Very cool.
I took that 4-hour drive back to Massachusetts. I literally drove there. We shot this poster for an hour, and I drove back. So it was 9 hours on the road. I went with a good friend of mine. His name's Jordan. He's been a great help on this film, and we went up there, and we did some really cool things with lighting because it's actually very difficult to shoot the car and and make sure the lights aren't overexposed. And
right.
I don't want to give away how we shot it, but there was a lot of sort of intricate mixing of flashes and continuous lighting, and we did this obviously at night with the smoke machine to get this poster just right. And the it came out great. So that's a really cool reward. And then we start getting into the autograph stuff. I mean, I wish I had more. I'm sort of because of the popularity that we've had early, I'm sort of scrambling to get more. Bob Gale was nice enough to sign a number of scripts for us, and I mean, these are sort of the higher dollar value stuff. It's $600, and as I look online now, we've sold 8 of them already. They're gone, and I'm running out. So I kind of I'm replenishing them by one, and I sent Bob an email today, and I hope to get some more of those. Dan Harmon, I'm not sure if he's big in England, but he's a big he does a lot of podcasting here, but there's a show here called Community.
Right.
That he created, and then a hilarious Back to the Future, very off-colored comedy called Rick and Morty, which legally has nothing to do with Back to the Future, but I guess for a hardcore Back to the Future fan, you might see some similarities with Doc and Marty, and he created that. And we interviewed him. He has a phenomenal take on Back to the Future as somebody that really is a film guy. A lot of it is rated R, and I don't know if it's going to end up in the film. But he was nice enough to sign some Rick and Morty scripts and stuff like that, so you can get that. Alan Silvestri signed original scores of Back to the Future, this sheet music. And I'm a musician. To me, that is the coolest thing. James Tolkien, who plays, the principal in Back to the Future.
Strickland.
Yes, he's. People always say, "Oh, he's still alive." Yes,
what?
he's alive and well. He lives in upstate New York, and he signed some Hill Valley signs. Andrew Heath, the same person that did our title treatment, our back, and our t-shirt design, he did, this great DeLorean poster, and, it's a Back to the Future poster. It's sort of like pop art, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's very, I mean, it's beautiful, but it's very simplistic. It's really cool. It's kind of very 80s, and he had done this print, with the California license plate that said Out of Time from Back to the Future. He did an exclusive version of it that says Back in Time on the license plate, and he autographed them, so we have that as a reward. Robert Zemeckis was very nice, signed a ton of stuff. I think a lot of it's almost gone at this point, but there's still some stuff left. We're gonna sign a couple, DeLorean replicas.
Nice. We're
trying to limit that and keep it exclusive, but obviously we're able to get our own signatures very easily. The holy grail of signed prizes was actually gone in the first 5 minutes of the campaign, which was the DeLorean Lego set, which is, by the way, very, very hard to get your hands on at all.
I've got those.
I got one too. Through our first Kickstarter, we had those as well. We had gotten 50 of them, and I did keep that, by the way. One of 50. The one that was number 1, I kept that, and that's
very nice.
Signed by me. So I have that. And yeah, that was signed by Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. So that went in 5 minutes. But some really cool prizes.
That is amazing. I honestly don't know how to sign this off because you have officially blown me away. I knew it was going to be a good talk. You're a really nice guy. It's been great to chat to you, and I very much appreciate you coming on the podcast, man.
Thanks so much, Carl.
No problem. That has been Jason Aron. I've been Carl Leggett, and you have been listening to Monday Night Carlo.
listening to Monday Night Carlo. The views and opinions expressed by the Carlo are all his own and do not represent any other entity.